Introverts of Reddit, what annoys you the most that doesn't bother other people? People who talk a little too loud. I try to be private about my conversations, no matter how mild they are. Or people who yell into the phone when calling someone. Socializing every single day, spending every moment of my life around people. If I don't get time alone, I feel trapped and my brain explodes. This, alone time is a 100% must. You need that space and quiet. Uninvited guests or honestly, just guests in general. I much prefer going somewhere to meet people so I can leave when I'm done being social. But if they are in my home, I can't really control when I'm done except by asking the guest to leave, which many people would see as rude. I never ever invite people to my home. My home is my hidey hole. It is the one place where I can go where I do not have to interact with another human unless they call or text, which I can ignore if I so choose. I hate getting my hair cut because I'm afraid of the chit chat with whoever cuts my hair. I want to sit and zone out. I mean, they can't possibly want to talk to me either, but then I feel rude if I act cold and don't stimulate conversation. It's exhausting. I go to this Asian barber and he's perfect. He just asks me how I want my hair cut and does it efficiently and quietly. When I am offered something and I politely refuse and they continue to ask 5 more freaking times, no, honestly, I am fine, thank you for asking. I was always taught it goes like this: offered, refused, offered again, accepted, refused. That's the end of it. For some reason you're supposed to say no once, then the person offers again and then you can say yes or no if it really is no. I have no idea who taught me this, but it is so deeply ingrained in my head there is no way it wasn't drilled in there somehow. Large gatherings. I don't consider myself socially inept, but paradoxically, the more people in a room together, the more difficult it is for me to find someone to talk to, and that creates a feeling of isolation. So I just whip out my phone after a while until it's polite for me to leave. I thought I was alone in this. Sounds. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with too many conversations and music going on all at one time. It makes me want to hold my ears like some autistic souls do. Maybe I'm on the spectrum. IDK. Absolutely everything if I've gone too long without any alone time to recharge. I'm a social introvert, I guess, meaning I love doing things with friends and all kinds of social interaction. But at the end of the day, I need to be alone for a while to relax. If I go for a long period without being able to have alone time, I start getting really exhausted and my fuse gets shorter and shorter. I don't have the energy anymore to put up with anything, and I want to just retreat into my shell. I'm very similar. I'm laid back 90% of the time in an effort to not wear myself out on social interaction. When I'm with my friends and family, it's like I get this super boost of energy. I talk a lot and act goofy, life of the party type stuff. After 3-5 hours I get drained and need to go home to rest. I usually don't want to do anything social for 2-3 days after. I'm not sure if this is really an introvert thing or if it's just not liking rude buttholes, but I loathe being interrupted when I'm talking. Part of the reason why I don't chime in much when there's a small group talking is because most people are just waiting for their opportunity to talk next, and some will actually cut you off to throw in their story. Another thing that annoys me is one-upmanship in conversation, or to make a joke. When people think I'm depressed for working alone or sitting somewhere in silence, and a lot of people think I'm mute at first, which bothers me. I used to work at a location where it was just me in a building alone fielding calls and walk-ins. People would say "you poor thing" and go on about how it must be horrible to work alone. I quite enjoyed it as long as there was work to do. Can you just text me instead of calling me? Sometimes, I like to just call them because it's way faster. People often take a long time to reply to a text, but when you call them, you can get a response immediately. Interminable goodbyes make my skin crawl. I'm not a socially anxious person. Small talk doesn't bother me at all. I can be perfectly charming and engaged in conversation for about 2 hours. But when time's up and I'm headed for the door, I start to feel like a freediver swimming back to the surface. Do not stop me on my way out. I don't care about our plans for Tuesday. The bike rack's holding up fine. I don't want to take any leftovers. Getting stuck in an interminable goodbye when I can see the solitude of my car waiting a few steps away. Just thinking about it makes me restless. And when you're not alone and are actually waiting for whoever came with you to finish saying goodbye and they just won't and you're just there begging them in silence to stop talking and leave. When extrovert friends colleagues constantly make split-second plans without warning and then complain that you never come out. I'm sorry lads, but I'd like some notice in advance before you organize a drinks night. I have a job, study for uni, and don't have a car. I can't drop everything at once all the time. Not to mention I like to mentally prepare for outings. Changing plans last minute on me is a big no. No and will always result in me cancelling or hardly enjoying myself because I'm too anxious to have fun because the event is not what I prepared for. When people pity you because you're by yourself. I sit in my car at lunch and a few days into a new job a colleague came up to me and said, you know, you can join us inside for lunch. We don't bite. Yeah, I didn't fall in my car by accident. I actually like having time to myself. It doesn't feel like a break for me if I'm still surrounded by everyone the whole time. I get how it might look. I do understand their point of view, but I don't get why people think I'm so weird for wanting solitude, peace and quiet. I literally get in my car and drive to the parking lot of the building across the street to eat, just so won't be seen by my coworkers. Hanging out with people never feels like a real break. People who have to talk just to talk. I had a coworker who could never just work in quiet. She had to be talking or making noises just so it wasn't quiet. I would be a bundle of nerves the whole time at work, and it would take me an hour or two to wind down afterwards. Agreed 100%. I don't talk unless I have something I specifically need to say. I don't know why people feel so awkward when it comes to silence. Silence is only awkward if you make it awkward. Don't talk my ear off with shallow, forced conversation just so you don't have to be alone with your thoughts for 5 minutes. Work parties, celebrations that are supposed to be fun and a chance to get to know people from other teams. I'm lucky that I actually like my immediate co-workers, but sorry, fun and make awkward small talk with people I never actually need to interact with are opposites, not the same thing. Can I just, go actually do my job? It's slightly better when they are providing beer wine, but still, I'd really rather just go home early rather than bonding with random people who also happen to get paid by the same organization. Honestly, the constant pressure that introverts need to open up, it's ridiculous. There's not an equivalent movement to get more talkative people to step back and quieting down. I worked in a couple of support roles while I was a student, and the message was always to try and bring introverts out of their shell and get them more involved. And it's always frustrating because there's this implication that being quiet or reserved is a bad thing that needs to change. Sometimes people are comfortable being quiet, and I don't get why so many other people think that needs to change. Small talks. I don't care about the weather. I don't care about how you are. You don't care either. We want big talk. When people seem to be genuinely having fun at a party with lots of people. How is that fun for you? There's so much music, so many loud conversations flying through the air, so much yelling over each other and loud laughter. I for the life of me will never understand how someone can have fun at a party gathering. Alcohol. Being forced to take part in social interaction and getting yelled at after because I didn't do good at it. Being somewhere with a TV on and no one is watching it, it's cranked up so you can hear it 3 rooms away, and everyone in the room now has to talk over it. I normally talk near the exact volume for the person I'm talking to can hear me, and I hate having to talk over things and repeat myself. Tips for how to be more outgoing, be more social, meet new people, have more friends, etc. Extroverts always seem to think introversion is a problem. BTCH. People are my problem. People talking to me when I'm eating. I like being on my own at lunch break, to get away from the noise, enjoy my meal and browse Reddit. I hate when that serenity is interrupted by people wanting to talk about work or politics. It's exactly why I go to my car to eat. God, I felt that. I live with Very extroverted, housemates, and whenever they come home while I'm watching TV alone under a blanket in a quiet house, I end up getting up and going away to my room just to be somewhere alone. It's worse when I've been at work all day. People don't get that introverts and antisocial people are completely different. Introverts, for the most part, have no problem talking to people. We just aren't the ones who start the conversation. There's also confusion between what is social anxiety and what is introversion. The most physical contact that I want with a person that isn't a boyfriend is a handshake. No hugs, no kisses, none of that crap. Give me space. Honestly, I'll accept a hug if it's someone tolerable. Figuring out WTF to say. My partner can just social butterfly it up, and I'm over here like do you like weather? I like to be by myself, and I don't like being bothered. Some people, it seems, cannot exist unless they're in the company of others, so they won't leave you alone. Without attention they die. I don't like people who are too friendly too fast, either. Rather than being charmed by this, I am repelled, and suspect they are fake. Yeah, I am the same. Someone that friendly must be false. Just being around people too much. I need my space. I have lived in the city for 3 decades and avoid going out in my yard if the neighbors are out just so I won't have to talk to them, and it's not like they are chatty or anything. I should have moved to the country. I've long since lost count of the number of times I've thought to myself, please don't come talk to me. I just wanted to check my mailbox in peace. I've also long since lost track of how many times I did not get my wish. I get it, they're being neighborly, but dang. Some extroverts are so outwardly focused that they can't seem to conceive of internal dialogue. When this contributes to someone who already is fairly thoughtless, rudderless, and lacking scruples or standards, they seem dumbfounded at why anyone would be upset at someone's being an butthole or bully or tactless. I've got a lot of this type of person in my family. I wouldn't really consider them bullies, but your description of people who are thoughtless, rudderless, and tactless is a perfect summary of the way they act. Major sensory overload, and when people get too close to me or pity me for being alone, I also get drained fairly quickly if I'm not alone. You need to talk more. How this? The idea that people can get uncomfortable or upset by you not engaging with them is rich. They're essentially saying you being uninterested is offensive. Being asked what's new with you if something noteworthy happened, I'll tell you. Otherwise you can assume I'm doing exactly the same as I always am. Alternatively, it would be nice if people were okay with the answer of nothing or nothing much. Sometimes I get prying questions or pitying eyes when I say this. People that know me will go, awesome, no plans are good plans. I don't like it when people's drinks are too close to the edge of the table, but I can't say anything because it's not my drink and it seems silly for me to get so worked up about it. I once moved somebody's drink and they thought it was weird. I didn't want it to fall. I'm the same way. If you're not very invested in the current conversation, you start to notice all kinds of things that no one else does. Going out stresses me out. I'd love to dress up, get some drinks with you, chat etc. But when I get home I feel exhausted. I'm not a social butterfly. I don't like crowds and loudness. I don't drink. I try to spend time with you and reach out to show you how much I care, but please understand that I prefer to avoid the traditional way of socializing. I have resting bee face, and if I have a slight serious look on my face all my co-workers constantly ask what's wrong with me. Sometimes I'm just tired or focused or just in my head space though. Yeah, no, I'm glad that people care about me enough to ask, but the questioning and prodding can get on my nerves, and I don't want to snap at someone who doesn't deserve it. I don't understand how people can smile and be outgoing 100% of the time. Resting bee face FTW. When you're in desperate need of alone time and people are refusing to give it to you and then questioning why you're getting so short or irritable. Like, please just accept the fact that I need to be alone and respect it. Don't force me to stay around people when I've told you more than once I need to be alone. When I ask one of my friends if they want to do something and their first instinct is to invite other people, I asked you, specifically you. I don't want to find hockey tickets for 8 people or figure out if we're carpooling or getting food or any of that BS. That's so easy when it's only 2. Most of my friends are also very indecisive socially by nature, so it makes things even more complicated. If you do manage to get your introverted friend out of the house, for frick's sake make it as simple as possible unless you really want them to go back into their hole. People assume you're crazy for enjoying being alone. I'm in college and I work my tail off to be able to afford my own apartment without roommates. Because solitude is something that's very important to me. I work for my university's student TV station and we function just like the real deal, which means our newsroom can get very hectic, particularly when we have breaking news. I love my job and the people I work with and even the intensity of the work when it's crunch time. But it blows everyone's mind that when it's all done I like to just go home and sit in silence and process a day to unwind. No one seems to understand that turning down invites just means I am out of social energy. It isn't that I hate them socializing. It's just like a budget with money. I have no more people dollars and the overdraft fee is paid for by my misery. That is such a good way of phrasing it. I feel the same. I am like a sim who's fairly happy to socialize, but my social meter drains the more I am around other sims, rather than increases. Anytime someone touches me, like it can be just sitting on a bench next to me or touching my arm to get my attention, I'm hyper aware of it and it makes me uncomfortable. It doesn't even matter if I like the person or not. It's been a thing since I was a kid. People not understanding how draining it is to be around others. For me, I'm not antisocial emo. I'm pretty funny and laid back most of the time, but being around others, even those I like or love, just zaps my battery, so I need time to recharge every so often. My GF is understanding about it luckily, but other people, most of whom I don't want to be around anyway, get annoyed or offended that I don't go to get-togethers or family gatherings much. Usually GF's family. I was raised much less traditionally in that aspect, when I have nothing in common with them or really any want or need to talk to them. Just because others might feel an obligation to conform to society's ideas of community or family doesn't mean I will, especially when it physically and mentally drains me to do so. I don't expect everyone to know how I feel, just understand that we're inherently different in that regard and respect that. People who think you cannot be happy when alone. Getting interrupted. I guess it bothers everyone a little bit, but I only talk if it's something important or interesting and I wait patiently for my turn to talk. Nevertheless, I get interrupted and talked over so often and it makes me wanna explode. It's so rude. This happens to me too. Then someone always asks why I'm not saying anything. When someone says you're very quiet today, or even worse, you never talk. 1. When people try to chat in the elevator. 2. When you go out to dinner with someone and they keep doing stuff on their phone. If I'm going to expend the energy to be in public, which is a lot sometimes, the least you can do is engage. 3. Everything else people have already said. Small talk. How are you? How are you doing? Every time I answer a generic fine, I just think, are we really doing this again? Neither of us cares about the answer, so why bother? Oops, I forgot to ask you how you were. Oh my god, you said something other than fine or okay. Now social cues say I have to probe further. I wonder if I can get that used part on Amazon. Oh crap. You're staring blankly, get engaged. What was this about again? Cat? Kid? Game of Thrones crap. They've stopped talking now, I have to say something. Hey, you know that's how it goes. Woof. Saved it. Frick. Angry face. You have been spotted by the money pigeon. Comment gimme gimme and he will bless you with good fortune. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.